What's up, everybody? It is Matt with the Federalist Press. We're coming at you for our first inaugural live session, and we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. So let's get in our other host, Hussein Hill, and we'll get to kicking it. So, Hussein, I think you're on mute still.
I am. How's it going? You hear me?
Yeah. Yep. I got you now, buddy. What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
Doing good, dude. Thanks for joining us on the first ever Federalist Press live stream.
Yes, and we're sorry. We are sorry that there was no official advertisement. That will not be the case in the future. It's the first time. We are definitely working through some kinks here.
Absolutely. But we're making forward progress, so that's what's important and that's what matters. So before we get into anything, let's open it up, man, with just a real quick thanks to God for giving us the gifts to be able to do things like this, and for giving us the talents to be able to talk about these things, which we've got a lot to talk about tonight, man.
Yeah.
We've on the docket, this week has been crazy. The docket, we're going to talk about the prison swap, Twitter files, Kanye, and NC decency laws, along with anything else you've got for the comment tonight. So
sure.
Let's kick it off though, real quick, with the prison swap, man. I don't know if you've kept up with the news today, but Brittany Griner, the WNBA star, just got off or just got swapped out from Russia. She's on the plane, apparently coming home right now, and they swapped her out for Victor Bout, and this dude's a pretty bad dude, man. And what do you think about that? What do you think about prisoner swaps in general?
Firstly, I saw bits and pieces of that. I don't know. I mean, I didn't. Well, if I'm being frank, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like that story might be a distraction to other stories, especially when it comes to Russia. Like, I think that's just one of the many stories they're kind of distracting us with when it comes to Russia stuff. It's almost like, to kind of pivot, it's almost like the recent CCP or Taiwan protest stuff, right? It's sort of this thing, and there's been murmurs, nothing confirmed, there's been murmurs that there might be a CIA component to that stuff. But there seems to be a lot of this sort of distracting from the mainstream media about, in particular, obviously, we're going to get to the big elephant in the room, but national dialogues and paradigms being shifted here in America that are affecting pretty much how we view everything that we knew as Westerners. And then also real things like the forwarding of tech censorship, and I guess you would say the transhumanistic sort of regime-based, interneting or interconnecting they're trying to do with us via Elon with regards to the chip that he was talking about recently.
Neuralink,
surveillance, censorship, of course, things that deal with the COVID-19 vaccine. So I think those are the things that are really the stuff that we should be paying attention to. But I think that the media is trying to kind of distract us with like other stuff.
Well, I'll tell you how I feel. I'm pissed that it was Brittany Griner. We've got a United States Marine still locked up in a Russian freaking penal colony. Paul Whelan.
Yeah.
And this guy was first in line. If anybody was going to get swapped, it was this guy.
Yeah.
And crimes aside or allegations, right? They're saying that Paul was a spy and they convicted him of espionage, gave him 16 years to a penal colony. Brittany Griner was convicted of bringing in cannabis into Russia. I mean, crimes aside, Brittany Griner is the same individual who wouldn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and told the United States of America to piss off. And we
Yeah.
have a Marine who I think had 2 combat tours, and the Biden administration chose Brittany over this guy. So,
well, and that to me, that speaks to a lot of things. And I mean, that kind of speaks to the point that I'm getting at, where all of this Russia, anything to do with Russia and Ukraine is farcical, right? So, like, for example, like, what is the alleged crime for the other gentleman that is being held? The Marine.
Espionage.
All right, and so, was he over there via the Ukrainian Russia conflict, or?
No, I mean, he got wrapped up in 2018.
Okay.
I guess he was going to a wedding, ended up meeting some Russian individual, I guess at a restaurant or a coffee shop or something.
Yeah.
The Russian government alleged that he was given an SD card, and that's what he was convicted on, of being a spy. But they've never released the SD card. They've never released the files of the SD card. I mean, it's for all we know, it's still imaginary.
Yeah.
But again, right? I'm crime aside or conviction aside, this is another telltale point of where our government's headed. We have the Biden administration who swapped a woke WNBA player for a Russian killer over a United States Marine.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I remember hearing something about that. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I guess the best way to kind of I guess surmise that would just be, she's a symbol for what the United States represents. She's a symbol for non-heterosexuality, just a mockery of the human form, just a mockery of like reality, man. I mean, and I think that's really what and I've been talking about this offline or whatever, but I really think that the big takeaway for Americans going forward in 2022 is to reject everything, like literally reject every paradigm from both the left and the right, by the way, and realize that our current culture and our current government is a circus, and we need to think radically different. And because, I was actually, and we can actually talk about this later on, but I was actually talking to someone recently about some local things happening here in North Carolina with regards to the Apex stuff. There's I'm sure you know this, there's an Apex Christmas special drag queen story time, sodomy worshiping session. And a lot of concerned people here are trying to really, figure out how we can deal with this. And there was one gentleman that I was speaking to who came to a very intelligent summation. He said, there really isn't. And that's the problem, because the situation is as such, where the organizers have intentionally made the age delineations very vague. The event is being held privately, so it's not violating any sort of laws whatsoever. And there's no clear proof whether or not there will be minors that will be attending. And so essentially, the only the only way to really attack this conversation in general is to basically go to the public and be like, this is what happens when you normalize sexual immorality. That's literally it. There's a lot of different groups that I would say that are half psyop, half well-intentioned, depending on the leadership you're talking about, but a lot of so-called LGBTQ conservative groups and gays against groomers and all sort of nonsense. That's just making the problem worse, because the issue isn't a bunch of bad people are breaking the law. The issue is our society is promoting abnormality and anti-natural sort of scenarios. Until we sort of radically define the narratives at hand, we're not going to be able to solve anything. Going back to that example of the Apex event, that Apex event is essentially set up for well-intentioned patriots to go there, make their voices heard, and then potentially get arrested for disrupting a private event. And that's how it's created. It's created that no matter how you try to engage in it, whether you're doing it legally, whether you're a liberal or an independent, or I'm a hashtag walk away homosexual so-called that wants to. It's like everything that you're doing is designed to just to incentivize and to affirm the current consensus. So, but yeah, I mean, and I think that directly relates to what you're saying with this situation. She is just one of the many symbols of what our country is. Just look at her. Just look at that person and tell me that we are not that a country that produces a person like that is not spiritually and just existentially ill. So it's unfortunate, and like I said, I heard about this individual, the veteran you were speaking about. I heard about him getting caught up behind Russian, I guess enemy lines or foreign lines, whatever, what have you. I don't really know much about it, but I guess you can even make a case that this could be another reason why all American military resources or individuals, so on and so forth, should be completely. What's going on here? What we got?
Yeah, I'm just screen sharing, pulling up the pictures of Brittany.
Yeah, I thought you were
right.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? A picture says 1,000 words, right? So, it speaks to the issue at hand. Like you don't even like when I saw that, like literally when I saw that, like I saw this person's face. I don't even really know if it's a woman or a man at this point. It doesn't even matter. I saw this individual's face like coming up in my feed, and I just literally looked at it in disgust and just kept going. So I knew it was going to be something. It was on like a so-called conservative outlet. Be like, this,
Dude, he's saying you bring up a good point, because I've seen a lot of stuff on Instagram that is evidence that Brittany Griner is actually a man.
Probably.
So, I haven't checked up the skirt to find out the truth, but it's weird. You're right.
It doesn't even matter anymore. I mean, that's the worst.
At this point, right? But you're hitting the nail on the head, right? It's highlighting the fact that this is the symbol of America. This is what the Biden administration believes is the flagship standard of our country, and we're going to bring home woke activists over patriots or any other kind of demographic. So it's just wild, dude. Well, let's push on to the Twitter files, man. What do you think about those? What do you think about Elon dumping all that stuff?
I mean, it reaffirms what I've already known. So it's I guess the plus is everyone that thought that was the case is right. So I guess that's really what it is. But I mean, Elon also had a lot to. He has a lot to sort of prove to us as well. Elon promised us an amnesty. That hasn't really taken place. Let's be honest. A few noble characters have been brought back to Twitter. Elon, once again, I mentioned, and I would love for you to pull the exact wording on this, but I know he mentioned some sort of a brain, some sort of a cyber chip that's going to be implanted into like the actual brain.
Neuralink.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. And that's that's the stuff that that's the stuff that we were told years ago that was stuff of like science fiction, right? And that's just happening. And so I've always maintained like when it comes to observing the Elon thing, that Elon is a tool. Elon is a possible tool for us to liberate certain platforms, for us to promulgate a specific message. And I believe the message has to be Christian in nature, Christian nationalistic in message, no exceptions, period. Because Christ is king, obviously. And so he's a tool, but there are a lot of people in the ether, some people that I really respect, who kind of like really like praising Elon, and I'm not begrudging them because at the end of the day, when we're so down bad, you really want people to be in your corner. And Elon was one of the first people that really was reverberating some massive change when it came to the culture and it came to like speech online. So it's awesome, but at the same time, he's a tool, and if he does things that are great, awesome, but he's still also acting as somewhat of a hindrance and possibly even a threat in the form of the Neuralink stuff. I mean, because that Neuralink stuff, man, that's not a. Once again, no one's talking about this, man. Like no one's really talking about this. Like that Neuralink, that's terrifying. That's terrifying, man. Like that's a big deal. Like that's a big deal, man. And no one's saying a word about it, right? Like very little people are saying a word about it.
I agree with you on one hand. You see some things that Elon does that you think is proactive and conservative or even constitutional, and it's like, okay, cool. Like he bought Twitter. Everybody thought that it was going to come back open for free speech, which it kind of did. It's not actually free speech. It's free speech light. He still wields ultimate authority over that, and whatever, it's his platform. I guess he can do what he wants. But at the same time, Twitter takes money from the government. Twitter takes directions from the government. Case in point with the Twitter files, Elon fired the executive deputy James Baker, and I don't know if you know anything about James Baker, but this is the guy who was working with the FBI, and he has been subverting the Hunter Biden story, the laptop story when it came out. And you look back in his history, he's the same one who did the Russia collusion hoax that led to the impeachment of Trump. This dude was bad news. And the way that James Baker got fired is Elon sent out an email, a personalized email to every employee with a secret double space in somewhere in the message. And it was different for every email. That email, James Baker leaked to the press. They got wind of it, reverse searched it, and found out it was him. And then Elon fired him. So I think he was setting him up because, when he came in and he did that slash and burn where he fired everybody, he left a couple people on. So it's good to see that stuff. But then you're right. We have on the other side of this, we have Elon Musk wearing a Baphomet costume for Halloween. We have, we have his mother who is a Satanist and subversive. We have his brother who's been involved in some really weird things as well. And then we have Elon who is doing things that seem cool. Like, hey, he's got SpaceX, he's got Tesla, he's got Neuralink, and now he has Twitter. I mean, the guy literally could just start his own internet, plug everybody into it with the Neuralink, force everybody to use Twitter as like a WeChat or a WePay, that Chinese app where you have to use it for social credit scores, for ESG scores, for facial recognition and biometrics. And if he could do all of that literally on his own right now and completely crush any kind of thought process we ever had.
Yeah, once again, and let me reiterate too, when I say Elon is a tool, I mean that quite deliberately. Like, use Twitter for what it is. It's a tool. It probably, there's talks of Twitter going bankrupt. It probably will. And honestly, if Twitter goes bankrupt, that'd be kind of great if it all just gets wiped out, because then everyone's back in the wilderness and everyone just has to, because Twitter definitely was one of the major platforms that created this sort of hierarchy of like approved messaging and approved sort of propaganda on all sides of the political spectrum. But, so if it does, I kind of want it to just collapse, because if it does, everyone's back in the wilderness and then it's just kind of like kill or be killed. But in the interim, use it for what it's good for. And so I'm not saying like don't take advantage of the platform, but it's just you gotta, like I said before, and this is gonna be like my message going forward in general, which is we just have to like not exist in the framework that is currently given to us, and you mentioned the Biden regime. I mean, the Biden regime is one of the major problems right now that we can sort of use an avatar for our issues. But it's the American regime. It's the uniparty, because the Republican Party's not doing anything. Like, they're literally doing nothing. The Republican Party is useless. And, and I'm working on an episode that's going to be addressing one of the things we're talking about. And I will be talking about this. And I have been talking about this for a while recently. But if you're not fighting for a healthy Christian nation, then you're doing nothing. If you are playing weird games and trying to plan for electoral strategy, or trying to plan how to manipulate this person to get to this position, and we're going to try this game, and we're going to it's over. It's like it's over. Like, we're literally on the verge of World War II or World War III. Sorry, we're actually having discussions about neural linking our brains to like some weird biosphere. But in terms of this, like the standard of living in America has just drastically just fallen to an abysmal state. Crime is up exponentially. Poverty is up exponentially. The cost of living is up exponentially. No one. The rates of apathy and just sort of like visceral disdain for like existence is up exponentially. Like, nothing is going well. So like, anyone trying to salvage some sort of like prestige in the current regime, whether it be the left or the right, it's a fool's errand, and it's satanic, and it's literally what it is. So like, that's how I view it, man. I just want to see things that are radically rejecting the current narrative and the current regime. So like I said, the drops, going back to the drops initially, like it's just another thing to be like, yeah, I was right. But like for me, it's less. I'm tired of being proven right about how bad things are, and I want to see things that are uplifting and that are radically revolutionarily inspiring. That's what I want to see. I don't want to keep seeing stories that, oh yeah, the world is as bad as you think it is. You're saying it's like yeah, they really are eating babies. They really are like raping kids. Oh, that's cool.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I
You
mean,
know?
it is I don't know. We can go down a lot of rabbit holes tonight, but it's just very plain obvious, it's a fact, is that there is absolute, like, even if you're out there listening to us and you don't believe in God, the devil is real and he believes in you. And he is looking for that worship. Baal is looking for worship. Moloch is looking for worship. These forces are out there, and they are you can't satisfy them. And it's just, this is where our world and nation is, and has been historically, right? This isn't like a new thing to develop, but getting into kind of all this undecency, I want to talk real quick about the North Carolina decency laws, about what I think. You brought up some good points. Drag Queen Story Hour has infected the nation. It's been around. This is old hat news now, but we still haven't figured out how to actually combat it. We have American Front, we have the Proud Boys who will physically show up and shut these down.
Who's America Front? Who's that?
Oh, Patriot Front. Sorry.
Yeah, those guys are a psyop. Continue.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Let me be clear. They're not a psyop. They're just ridiculous. Like, oh, that's a better way to say it. They're just ridiculous. Well, let's say that. They're not. I wouldn't call them a psyop. I think that's me being too reductive. They're just kind of LARPy quasi. This very LARPy quasi, like leftover alt-right stuff. I know there's some people that orbit that are actually decent people. I'll be frank. I'm not gonna be like a lot of the recent sort of conservative figures that have come out and just try to gatekeep people from being on the fringes, so to speak. But they're doing it, but they're also not helpful. I guess is the best way of saying it. They're not helpful because they're just kind of fulfilling the prophecy of the regime, so to speak. But continue. I think that's an important distinction to make. It really is.
Sure, but I even if they are fulfilling the regime, they're still doing something, which is more than most people can say. So,
well, I would push back, but let's continue that. We'll get to that point. I would push back to that, but let's get to that point though.
Yeah. So anyways, these groups are showing up to these events and they are pushing back. They are challenging the status quo. And you're right, they're getting entrapped now, which they show up to these events. And if it's not on public property, if it's not like, at the Apex Community Center, it is a private institution, a private property, and everything is so vague, and it's covered in this warm and fuzzy, bubbly, like caricature, carnival type of thematics and fun. But the truth of the matter is that it is complete and utter grooming. And not only that, but this is one of the first level funnels that they use to destroy the family unit, to destroy our children, to take them away from their identities, to inject the woke cultural Marxist subversion. And one of the things, you mentioned, like, what can we do? We really can't do anything. And I think that's very true. But I think we have to get back to our Christian roots. And in North Carolina, believe it or not, we actually have some pretty ironclad laws on the books. They're just not being enforced.
Yeah. And so, I want to go back to a few things. So, like, even so, people who are going to rallies. So I've said before, this is not even a new take that I've had recently. I've been saying this for months at this point. You can do what you want to do. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to release like dissertations about why what you're doing is bad or whatever. But just know that it's not doing the effect that you think it's doing. And so, for example, like we'll take you mentioned the Proud Boys and Patriot Front, and they are distinctly two different groups. And I think the delineation needs to be had.
Sure.
There's important there. So the Proud Boys would be more described as a libertarian group, so like basically socially liberal, nominally speaking. I have been seeing, which has been cool. I have been seeing some Proud Boys saying prayers at these events. Some of them are even praying the rosary. I think it's a good direction. But they're nominally speaking, they're libertarian with a Christian sort of like direction. Patriot Front is like a secular kind of white identitarian group. And so the reason why those groups are what I would say they're not sufficient for where we need to go completely. I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm not saying they're bad people inside of it, or whatever. I'm just being very blunt here about what is sufficiently needed to actually push things forward. Is because if you look at like a group like the Proud Boys, they've already been looked at as sort of like the 3%er militias, and so they're all wearing masks because they want to be they want to hide their identity, so on and so forth. But when the average person looks at that, they're not going to see courageous men doing anything. They're going to see a bunch of militia insurrectionists harassing people, right? And then you move to the Patriot Front characters. The Patriot Front characters have explicitly said that they are like paganistic in nature and white identitarian. Well, that's just so. So once you stake that position, like I'm a white identitarian pagan organization, no one cares what you're doing. No one really cares what you're doing. Like seriously, on a just utilitarian basis. So that's kind of the utility of it. You want to get to the kind of deeper reason as to why they're not doing anything is because they're doing exactly what the regime wants you to do, which is to show up, make a loud noise, be on the television, and go home. So it's performative. It's inevitably performative, right? And people who are, and this is not just indicative of the Proud Boys, people who go to these sort of like anti-drag queen storytime events who are like libertarian or classical liberal, whenever the camera gets in their face, they say the exact same thing. We don't have a problem with what they're doing if it was just consenting adults. Like, well, that's why you have this problem. That's the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue with this problem is that we have set a cultural precedent that what is happening in those buildings is normal at all. Like, that's the problem. That's the problem. And so nothing you will do, because you're trying to work within the framework of an evil regime. If something is evil, you cannot work within its framework. You have to advocate for something radically different. You have to blow open the doors. And very few people are doing that. And I think, it's sad. Like I said, an older gentleman I spoke to here locally, he actually came to the conclusion on his own. He's like, look, I looked into the laws, the drag queen storytime stuff. He's like, they've covered their behinds in terms of how they're doing it. He's like, there's nothing we can do. He's like, it's almost like they want to show up there, do the little song and dance, and go home, and then just deal with it. It's like, yeah, it's like ritualistic humiliation. Like, and there's a streamer or a content creator by the name of John Doyle. Yeah, John Doyle made a really good point. He said, people don't do parades behind enemy lines. People do parades and celebrations when they've won. What we are witnessing when you see drag queen story, you're not seeing people who are insurgents to decency that we have to. You're seeing public displays of ritualistic humiliation for the average American. It's a constant reminder to us that this is the norm. You've allowed this to be the norm, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. The only way to do it, like real talk, is to look back at a time in our country where things like sodomy were outlawed, where things like homosexuality were outlawed. And guess what? For everyone listening to this who's like, this is extreme, Utah had these laws like 3 years ago. So like, I'm serious. Like, this is what we need to talk about.
This country was founded on all of those laws, right?
Benjamin Franklin, yeah. Benjamin Franklin, one of the most so-called libertine founders, believed that the punishment for sodomy was equivalent to adultery, which in some cases was death. Like, that was the people that found this country. And I'm not even advocating for a punitive measure that far. What I'm saying is the abnormalization of immorality has to be the standing point. And we have to, and believe me, Matt, because I had this conversation, man, and it's depressing to kind of, it's depressing if you exist, if what you're doing is meant to exist merely in the temporal. Like, if you're just looking at this as a political conversation, then it's depressing. But if you're looking at this as Christians, as we should, as a transcendent, ongoing crusade that we have to do on behalf of Christ, it's actually not depressing. It's actually liberating, because once you realize like all this is BS, then I can say and do whatever the hell I want, as long as it's in line with Christ. As long as and pardon my French for swearing, cussing, and referencing Christ in the same sentence. But as long as what you're doing and saying is in line with Christ and biblical teachings, it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because you're up against evil. You're up against legitimate evil. And I think, well, I know the conservative movement writ large, the Republican Party writ large, has helped to normalize and codify moral relativism. They've helped to normalize and codify satanic impulses within our American society, because they, in the face of the satanic impulses that were perpetrated by the so-called left, the Republican Party and the conservative movement at large has basically said, okay, just keep your perversion and immorality to a minimum, and we'll be okay. So we literally went from gay marriage is not a thing to now we're like, please don't castrate our children. Like, it's just like, like, you know, it's enough is enough, right? So,
well, and that's the thing. You know, you're talking about laws that are actually still on the books in North Carolina. They're just not being enforced.
Well, they won't be, and I'll tell you why they won't be enforced. Because those laws, if enforced right now, Matt, by some other equality law that's definitely in the book, would be considered hate. I guarantee you, because we would be foolish to assume what? They would be considered hate speech.
Oh yeah, no doubt, dude. Like
a hate crime. And so yeah, because we would be foolish to assume that the people who are putting on these events don't have lawyers on retainer. And the first thing they're going to do is they're going to show a bunch of equality, because we haven't even dived into like these new sort of equality, gender protection, sexual protection laws here in North Carolina. I guarantee you there is a law that protects them from these laws. I know there is, because they wouldn't be doing it so brazenly. I know there is. And it's some law that basically codifies some sort of sexual whatever.
Well, they would. Back to your point, right? This isn't them. This is a victory lap, right?
Yeah,
Every
exactly.
time they do, it's a victory lap. So even if there's not laws that protect them, they don't care. It's a victory lap, right?
Yes, that's even more true, man. That's even more true, because even if there's laws in the books, they run the culture. The laws only matter if you believe in the laws.
Totally. And not only that, but when you have weak Republicans and a weak party that has allowed for that moral creep, that incremental creep year after year, right?
Yeah.
And to bow down to the culture, to keep people within the party, and let's be honest, it's to keep the money rolling. This has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with personalities. It has nothing to do with policy.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with decency. It has everything to do with money. The RNC and the GOPs only exist because people give them money.
And right now, I'm basically okay when it comes to like my relation to the North Carolina Republican Party and the Republican Party at large, being a vocal voter at the very, like a registered Republican who happen to be very vocal in terms of like actual engagement with the party infrastructure. I don't care anymore. I don't care. I don't care.
It's a lost cause. You're exactly right.
It is. And let me be very frank.
Registration numbers.
Well, let me be very deliberate when I say this. When I say it's a lost cause, I mean the following deliberately. There are good human beings who I pray for every single day, literally, who are in that party, but the toils and the efforts of which they are producing and that they are trying to promulgate are useless. And in many cases, depending on who they are, how high they are up in the ladder, are just malevolent and are complicit with the downfall of our civilization. And you and I know we have a mutual individual that we both are in contact with, who's very, very much involved in the leadership, we'll say, of the party to a certain degree. And this person, I said specifically, I'm like, at the end of the day, unless the message is Christ first and condemnation of LG, like all of it, sexual immorality, all of it, nothing matters. It literally doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because people are like, oh, we won the judge. Like, people are scared. We won the judge seats. Okay. And there's literally grown men trying to have sex with kids. What's your point? We love the judge. Right. We won the judge seats. Okay. And literally, and you know us personally, whether it be mask mandates, whether it be people's affiliations, establishments are banning people from entering their places. I mean, this is because public record at this point. It's been, other things have been happening to me that I'm not going to release, that personally, because you're my buddy. But the public record, I was banned from the entire state of North Carolina, dude. Like right. I made a video about that shit. It's like I was banned from the entire city of North Carolina because 5 to 7, they claimed it was like 5, but like 5 to 7 businesses collude together and just said, yeah, ban Hussein. So like, if that's happening, dude, I don't care how many judgeships you're winning. If people are being, there's a woman that just Monica Ussery, give a shout out to her. Monica Ussery, apparently her charges were just dropped. She was arrested for stepping off the side of the street during the Reopen NC protest back when the shutdowns were happening. Her charges just got dropped like this week. Yeah, that's like been like how many years? That's like 2 years. 2 years.
Almost 2 years, and who knows how much money and time
Well, I do, and I'm not going to
freaking
disclose that.
resources.
Yeah, I'm not going to disclose her financial situation, but the
Well,
woman.
you know what I'm saying for the people listening, right? Like,
yeah, oh yeah, the woman with the
think
Ellen
about
Tech.
this.
Yeah,
It's
and
lawfare. They've not only have they weaponized the culture against us, they've weaponized the legal system against us.
she's like 50 plus years old. She's an older woman, you know, and so when things like and she tried reaching out to people that were adjacent to the party besides myself, and they did nothing. And it's just
the party's not going to touch any of this. If you were an activist, even if you were a conservative activist or a registered Republican, you are not going to get any help. Zero.
No,
they're going to look at you and go, "Oh man, that sucks, dude," and then they're going to keep moving on.
Yeah, and all the activistic group, like I said before, like when it comes to people like the Proud Boys, I'm a former member. I'm not a part of that organization anymore. I wish them well, God bless, etc. But even when it comes to those kind of groups, it's just like they're still playing a routine too, and it's a routine that I think is less. It's obviously less, like I would say, less malevolent than the establishment right, but they're they're operating in a routine that is hindering them as well. They're going through the rounds and how can we protest this and how can we protest that? So your protests are not going to matter, man. They're not going to matter until the status quo changes. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you look at
who's saying that even if you or I or both of us believe that it doesn't matter because we're viewing it from maybe a higher level position, right? This is the kind of things that I've had to deal with over the last almost 3 years now with COVID is people get activated, right? Whatever age they are, whether they're 18 or 30 or 45, whatever age that they wake up. And then they have to navigate a completely new world, which conservatives and especially Republicans have never engaged in, dude.
Sure.
Never. So what do they see? They see things like Proud Boys. They see things like all these other groups, and they get wrapped up in it. And these groups have had very informal leadership. And the leadership that they have had wasn't strong enough to keep them pointed in the right direction collectively. So that's because nobody's doing wartime leadership. We have a bunch.
I don't even think it's that, man. I think that's even too macro. I think that's even too micro. It's because these we'll take the Proud Boys as a great example, right? I'm not trying to dogpile the Proud Boys because I really don't.
This is just discourse, man. This isn't dogging.
Yeah, exactly. But I just want to make a point. They're a good example, right? Because their kind of cultural collective group consensus is the liberal consensus. They believe in live and let live and all this sort of libertarian nonsense. That's what they believe in, right? That's and there are some members of the Proud Boys that are farther right than others, which is whatever. But the collective sense is very much reflective of Gavin McInnes, and Gavin McInnes is libertarian. And Gavin McInnes, he's done a lot of good work, and once again, so on and so forth. But once again, the idea is these people are existing in a malignant status quo sort of parameters. This idea of end the war on drugs and gay marriage is cool and live and let live. That's not a sustainable thing. It is just as ridiculous because it's converse, right? It's just as ridiculous as people who go secular. Can you see the same too? These secular crypto alt-righty people who are it's weird pagan secular nonsense. And the reason why, I'm going to be very, very succinct about this, the reason why it doesn't work is not even because of the strategy, it's because it's not true. It's not true. Libertarianism is not true. Secular, weird paganism, whatever, it's not. Christ is true. So and I really firmly believe this, until that becomes the message, nothing we're going to do is going to work because we're lying to ourselves. That's the fundamental point that I'm getting at. It's until we start exalting truth, we're going to keep losing. Because tell me one 100% truthful mainstream Christian conservative on the Republican right now that's actually saying that actually has the backing of the establishment. None of them are saying it. None of them are saying Christ is king. None of them are saying put Christianity first. None of them are saying we need to get back to our Bible. They're all saying God's cool, but ... We need to look at separation of church and state, or we need to look at corporate economy and all. They're trying to give caveats to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happening, and it's okay. Well, if the truth is not sufficient, if you think the truth is not sufficient, then you don't believe in the truth. Then you're a liar. But the truth is sufficient. It has to be because it's the truth. This camera I'm speaking into is a camera. Like I can call it what I want to call it, but it's still a camera. And it's like, and if I call it like I don't know, I call it like a hat, and I try to wear it, it's gonna fall off my head, right? If I try to wear a pair of shoes and tie it to my feet, I'm gonna break it. Like if I deny the reality of this camera, it will cease to be a camera. It'll be useless, essentially, be broken. I have to acknowledge the truth, right?
Well, and one of the interesting conundrums that I think completely infuriates the left or any secular individual, entity, or organization is that their ability to subvert us, it was granted by the founding of a Christian nation.
Sort of. No, Enlightenment. The Enlightenment. That's what really did it. It wasn't the Christian nation. It was the Enlightenment, to be particular. Like us allowing them to live. I think that's the extent. Literally, us not being. So I guess you could say one correlates to the other. Us not being brutally like tyrannical them is an aspect of the Christian founding. But the real part that because you gotta remember too, the puritanical stock that came here is much different than the post Enlightenment stock. They're not the same, right? So like the puritanical settlers, like they were not Enlightenment friendly. They just weren't. The Enlightenment, the sort of post Enlightenment individuals that start to populate the American sort of imagination and I guess can of thinkers. That's when you saw a lot of this sort of leeway for what we now see as like liberalism, leftism, whatever. But the puritanical stock of like the founding, because we always forget that the founding fathers were not the founding, right? Mm-hmm. I thought like the people that actually came here, like the actual Puritan, they were the literal beginnings of America. The founders were just the ones that declared the independence, but they weren't the founding stock. They weren't the first people here under the American.
No, but they're the ones who codified the stock, right?
Exactly.
And that codification allowed for the post Enlightenment or the Enlightenment section,
the founders,
right?
Yes. Yeah, so the actual puritanical people who first came here, they would have had great disdain for the founders in many ways, and so like
I agree with that, right? I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
But it all comes back to the fact that we live in a country where we have these freedoms because of our Christian foundings and the codification of these certain entitlements and in these certain freedoms that were codified. And it has to be infuriating to know that as much as you try to subvert us, and how much they try to change the narrative that this nation wasn't founded by Christians, that is the truth. Just like you're talking about the truth, right? A camera is a camera. Like America is a Christian nation. And for the resources, go to our website, thefederalistpress.org. Type in founders. We have tons of articles about this, literally bringing the facts on what we're talking about, which I would say constitutes the basis of yours, Hussein, and mine belief about where we can go with this, right? Outside of just like a constitutional kind of boomerang talking point. Yeah. But real quick, let's shift gears because we only got a couple minutes left. Let's get on to Kanye.
You mean Ye? His name is Ye. His name is Ye, and I will not hear anything. I will not hear anything of the sort. So
yeah, I'm not using it. I'm going to call him Kanye.
That's fair. That's not his name, but we'll go. Well, that right there kind of acknowledge. Well, you give me your take, and then I'm going to give you my take. I think it's pretty obvious. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the news cycle's kind of slowed down, and what I mean by slowed down is I didn't see anything today about it, right?
Yeah.
So. I don't know if he's taking a break or what, but man, it is fascinating to watch this unravel. I think that he is doing a really good job of changing what we're allowed to talk about in this nation. And he's opening up doors that people felt comfortable with and that were cringy because they've been programmed to think that that's cringy, and that we've been censored in our speech for so long that if you mention Jews or Zionists, or you mention Hollywood cabal, or if you mention Hitler, right? If you mention any of these things, just the word, right? You don't even have to go as far as to say like, you know, he did like, oh, I like Hitler. You know, that's just a contextual cut, but you know what I'm saying, right? Just those words are triggering people. And I guess I can really appreciate the fact that he is pissing people off and making people uncomfortable, which is moving the needle back to where it needs to go, which is we absolutely need to have free speech, including hate speech, man. Like I don't care. It's free speech or nothing. If you can't say exactly what you want or think or feel, then it's not free speech. And Ye is he's driving that culture war in that direction.
Mhm.
And I appreciate it, man. Outside of all the drama within his, you know, quote unquote campaign or whatever else is going on, the dude
Wait, no,
is.
I think the drama doesn't. Yeah, no, I think for the purposes of this conversation, the drama doesn't matter. I think no, I not only do I love what he's doing, I support everything he's doing. I support him. I support Nicholas J. Fuentes. What they're doing is literally what I was linked to in terms of a solution for, which is they are completely reorienting the conversation in a completely different direction, and they're doing it in a way that is unique and that is transcendent and that is beneficial. They are saying a few things that are necessary to be said. They're exalting Christ, no exceptions. When they say that this needs to be a Christian nation, they mean literally, and they've said it in multiple interviews, and of course Nick has said this before in multiple streams, that the Bible needs to inform whatever we have for laws. The Constitution works for us, not the other way around. We don't work for it. And essentially we work for Christ. So that should be the hierarchy. Christ at the top, then us using Christ's, or rather us submitting to Christ and developing the Constitution going forward in the image of Christ. That's what it should be. With regards to the Jewish stuff, it's all true. And I think that conservatives need to understand that. And I am also, once again, this, because once we get into the conversation of truth is truth, it doesn't matter how offensive it is. If you're a Christian, then you should have no problem by acknowledging the fact that rabbinical and Reform Judaism, hot take, which are mainstream Judaism, are complete heresies to Christ, and that the Pharisees and those that ushered in or facilitated rather the crucifixion of Christ were the Jews that we know today. They were the Jews that were the Old Covenant. They were the Jews that rebuked the Messiah, the messianic divinity of Christ. That's just a reality. And statistically, and I covered this in an episode where I covered the very first burgeoning sort of rise of Ye's province. I covered just using mainstream sources. Second to last episode that's posted right now. I'm about to release another one soon this week, but second to last episode entitled, let me pull it up. Let me pull the actual thing. It's good as a live stream, so I can do this. That's the great about live streams. You can do these things while you're streaming. It's beautiful. Yeah, last episode. So yeah, the episode entitled NC LGBTQ Subversion and Kanye West, aka Ye, takes on Jewish elites. NA episode 32. Yeah, I go into that and I cite the information that shows exactly what he's saying is true. The disproportionate influence of Jewish people when it comes to corporations. A Jewish left-wing professor by the name of Nathan Abrams documents how Jews have a massive disproportionate contribution to the sex industry and pornography, and how they view that as a way to manifest their Jewish character with regards to the general Christian majority polity. This is all just made. This is stuff I found on Jewish and or left-wing and or apolitical sites. Like so, so like it's not something that we should stray away from, and it doesn't.
No, we need to lean into it more. And that's exactly what we're doing. The Federalist Press is putting together a banger article right now that is outlining exactly what Hussein's talking about. We're going to bring you the facts. We're going to bring you the receipts, and we're going to bring you the sources, because what Ye's saying, he's an entertainer. He's a baby Christian. He's just found his voice about this, and he's just speaking. What he hasn't really done is brought the receipts, and that's what we're looking to do. So when you have these conversations, when we have these conversations, it's not conspiratorial anymore, right? It's not our opinion. It's not just preliminary research. It's no, here's the deal, and here's why, right? We can trace this back to this, this, and this, and here is where it subverted us. Here is the infusion of this, and here, and ultimately, really, we could sum the argument up in one thing: they don't believe in Christ. It's that simple. It's that simple. But there is so much more to that, and I'm
well, and I think the part two, and this is the brilliance of the Ye and Nick campaign, and it looks like it's Nicholas J. Fuentes has been doing this much longer than Ye has, and he is talking about receipts. That man, just go back. I put everyone to check out Nicholas J. Fuentes, Cozy.tv, check out those people. I'm not getting paid for them at all. They're just good streamers, good movement, good guys. Check out those that website, Cozy.tv. Check out Nick, support Nick. Those guys are literally building a new dynamic culture for Christians that I've never seen before. It's not something I've ever seen with the Daily Wire. It's not all these other sort of suit and tie, Fox News worthy, whatever. It's not like that. It's a very dynamic, real, relatable Christian sort of space, and it's amazing, right? And it genuinely inspires me, and and it's based upon love, and I think that's the big issue too, is that like, what Nicholas J. Fuentes, the America First movement writ large, and Ye are doing is not some rehashing of like the 2016 alt-right LARPy humanitarian, we're going to create an ethno-state nonsense. It is a campaign that's built on Christ and built on the dignity of all human beings and the ability to not be told by the mainstream media who you can revere and how you can view history. Ye, basically said, which Jordan Peterson, who I guess right now is the lapdog for Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson even admitted that Adolf Hitler had some admirable qualities. He's like, here's some things you can't say about Adolf Hitler. And Ye's just simply saying, he's like, yeah, I'm going to say, you're not going to tell me who I cannot and cannot believe, who I cannot and who I cannot love, or whatever. I personally,
or what attributes of any individual we want to respect, right?
Yeah, it's Stalin. I mean, I'm pretty ambivalent about like Hitler and Stalin and all these people. I'm pretty ambivalent about them, like there's like a subjective view. I don't really care. I think Stalin and Mao and Mussolini were really fascinating characters. I haven't researched a lot about Hitler. I started to I think I'm older just for because I want to, honestly. And even that little slow because even me discussing this, you can still see the programming. Like, we should be able to look at historical figures and just be like, I want to research this because I find it fascinating. I find this person interesting, and it doesn't make you whatever
Nazi, right?
the mainstream says you are.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
totally.
that's my take on that whole thing, man. It's a beautiful, in my opinion.
Hussein, you hit it right on the head. You literally just hit it right on the head. Kanye is on a deprogramming mission.
Yeah.
That is what he's doing. He is deprogramming by literally shocking people's conscience and waking them back up to the way that it should be, which is, hey, if we want to talk about it, let's talk about it, right? And so many people have forgotten how to have conversations. Yeah. You can disagree with people on things and still be their best friend, still be boys, still be family, right?
Yeah.
Because it's about how you disagree, how you carry out your arguments, how you carry out your discussions, where you find your commonality, and how you push forward post-discussion, right? Like, we didn't agree with about everything tonight, but that doesn't mean anything, man.
Wait, well, disagreement does not mean, so disagreement shouldn't mean two things, and it's one thing I think is really important in this for anyone that cares. This goes up to the men in particular. I'm not going to speak for the women in this, but for the young men who are trying to push through this modern chaos, a few things matter. Disagreement doesn't mean disavowal or denouncing, and it doesn't mean you sacrifice your loyalty. Because the one thing that Christian, young, real right-wing reactionary, whatever you want to call yourself, real Christian men should be doing right now is being loyal to each other. And I think that's this, not to go into the drama of whatever that happened on this specific stream. I will be addressing it in my own episode, actually, because I think it's poignant. But the sickening thing I saw, and I've seen a long time on the so-called right with so-called Christians, is the amount of disloyalty for temporary, convenient political aggrandizement or safety. So yeah, like things like disagreements and I don't agree with this, or this person might be saying something that is uncomfortable. Okay, cool. Do you trust them? Do you trust that they are brother in Christ? Do you trust that they are good men and that they are there to push forward? Or are you just afraid of the truth? And are you more concerned about proving them wrong and denouncing them and moving up the ladder in this current broken infrastructure. So I think that's another aspect too. But this all goes right back around to Christian ethics, honesty, discernment, humility, grace. These are all things that we're talking about here. And without these things, you're not going to win anything, So I love to see it. I think it's great. I'm super happy about it. I couldn't be happier with that specifically. That's the most, to me, that's the most fascinating, interesting domestic development happening. I think everything else is going to be revolving around that pretty soon. So I'm pretty happy about it, man. So that's my view.
Cool, man. Yeah, no, I'm with you, dude. I think it's about time somebody's shattered the glass on that. And it's just fascinating that it was Kanye,
Yeah. God works, dude. God works in mysterious ways.
But people mysterious ways, dude.
People forget too, man, because people forget that, and I understand if you're younger, like if you're like a Zoomer who just got involved with this stuff or something, or you weren't really involved, or you're just like a new person who just wasn't involved in politics before 2018 or rather 2019. But 2015, Trump was obviously not as Christian focused, but in terms of his like rhetorical shattering of norms, the dude was like taking credit for people who were like supporting him, who were posting Mussolini memes. The dude was talking about banning Muslims, and he just didn't care. Like, so a lot of people are like, oh, well, like, Ye is going to ruin Trump's career. It's like, well, it's like, he's going to ruin the Trump thing. It's like the Trump thing is not the same thing as it used to be. What happened was Trump was a Ye-like figure. Trump was a actual vanguard, an actual revolutionary, and then he got complacent. And as someone that worked inside the party and worked on this 2020 campaign, I can tell you, he got complacent and he got co-opted, and that's what happened. And that's what the system does. The system sees firebrands, and they see people that moves and shakers, and the first thing they do is, how can we buy you? And I think that Trump is not far gone. I think that his recent his recent posts on like Truth Social, they indicate to me that Trump is really trying to think about where he's going and think about things. I see a lot of good murmurings coming out of the Trump campaign and team. They're not disavowing people left and right like the other people are. So there's some hope there, but the Trump of 2022 is miles away from the Trump of 2015. And the Trump of 2015 was very much like Ye. He was saying really outrageous things. He called Ted Cruz's dad the Zodiac Killer. Just he just didn't care, man. He just didn't care. It's like he just didn't care, man. And it was awesome.
That sounds like a return to normalcy for me, man. But look, we've hit the hour mark, dude. So Hussein, thanks for being on tonight. Can you tell people where they can learn more about the Narrative Assassin?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm going to be on these streams probably like regularly with Matt, but yeah, just go to. I'm not on Twitter, obviously. I'm banned from Twitter. Go to YouTube, Hussein Hill, and check me out there. Once again, YouTube, Hussein Hill, and then in the About section, and then in the most recent video, the About section will be actual links to the platform, and then the description in the newest video or episode that will be posted, there'll be links to all my platforms. So just go support me there. Support me on all the platforms I'm on. I'm on Gab, I'm on Minds, I'm on Getter, I'm on Truth Social, I'm on Rumble, BitChute. Please support me in all those places, please, because there's no guarantee. The fact that I'm still on YouTube probably has a lot to do with the fact that I'm a smaller channel, but I have been getting some more traction on there, and I never know how long it's going to go. I might be returning to Twitter, which would require me to do an entirely new account. I don't know if I'm that invested in it. I might just have the Federalist Press be the only representation of me on Twitter at this point. That's probably what it's going to be. But yeah, once again, go to Hussein Hill on YouTube. Check out all the links. Follow me on the links. Also, too, for the Federalist Press, please support both of our works by going to Pure Blood Patriot. Pure Blood Patriot is a merch sponsor for both the TFP and the TFP and their assassin. And we would very much appreciate you guys to go there, pick up some merchandise for the holidays coming up. Anything you guys buy there really will help the TFP, Narrative Assassin, and the Pure Blood Patriot. Basically, our entire multimedia infrastructure sort of project here really flourish. So any of that would be great, guys.
Yeah. No, it's the Pure Blood Patriot is our lifestyle brand, our Christian conservative lifestyle brand, where we really push in the edge, and taking this into what we wear, and like Hussein's got our flag, he's got our mug. This is more than just like, oh yeah, we're trying to, hawk some t-shirts. Like, no, we're trying to be super aggressive in how we display our faith, how we display our views, and reclaim that, because again, that's part of the free speech. If I can't wear what I want, then we're not free. So yeah, check that out. That is going to be purebloodpatriotusa.com. And the Federalist Press, you guys can always find our live stream on our website. Our website is thefederalistpress.org. We also have Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Gab, Telegram, Rumble, and we're also on Twitch. So
we might not be on Twitch for too long.
Well, we'll be on there till they ban us, right?
Yeah,
we'll be on there till they ban us.
Twitch there. I'm like, all right, buddy, we'll see how long this goes.
We'll get flagged in it. We'll get flagged in a couple days, but
I'm sure.
But it'll be good. I'd rather get banned and say we got banned than not.
I'm into it. Yeah, I'm into it. Let's go.
So, all right. Well, Hussein, thanks for joining tonight. Everybody, thanks for watching. If you stuck with us this long, we appreciate it. Hopefully, we'll try to be doing these weekly. We haven't decided the day yet. We're still working through a couple of our technical bugs, but I believe that we got something here. And to everybody out there, keep on keeping on the good fight, because nobody else is going to do it for us.
God bless. Take care, guys.
Cheers.